Today we're going to talk about SWIM local file management, how to keep track of the files that you're using and adjust what files you're viewing by revisions using revision rules and the new SWIM update command. A little background here, what we're going to be talking about is managing your work folder, also known as the cache folder, that local work directory where all the files from Teamcenter are brought down and used then to be loaded into SOLIDWORKS into Session for you to work with them. You need to remember that with Teamcenter, the CAD file name is the same for all revisions. So whether it's revision 1 or revision 23 or Z, it's all the same file name, going to be, part.sld part. Only one revision, therefore, can be seen at a time if you're using one single work folder, which is generally the recommended practice. As soon as you have more than one work folder, the amount of work you have goes up a lot. The update command and the revision rules associated with it, as well as manual selection, allows you a lot of control over what information is fetched from Teamcenter and how your local models are updated. All right, let's take a look at some of these things. So one of the things here to keep in mind is that when you open from Teamcenter here, this form has a lot of options on it and a lot of control, but really what we're looking at on this particular form, and I'm just going to grab a particular assembly here, is you're looking at the original retrieval of this information. So in this case, I want to go see revision 1 of this assembly as it was last saved. So I'm going to look at the precise view of that assembly. And I now have it, and it retrieved it to session, but since all of these have status, nothing was checked out. Okay, but it allows me to control whether things are just fetched to disk, whether they are opened in SOLIDWORKS session like this was, if you want to check something out so that you can make changes to it. It also will not overwrite files. So any of these files that already exist in my working directory, I will get some information about. So let's say I go now and I say I want to open just that part. So when I say open that part, it says this part's already local, and it's just going to use the one that's in the work directory because I didn't specify that I wanted to. I'm not going to overwrite at this point. Okay, so it opens that part, uses the one in the local work directory. Tells me it's out of date, so there may be a newer one in the library, but that's not the one it's going to fetch. If nothing is in session, however, okay, and I just have some files on disk, now if I go and say I want to fetch P1 and maybe I want to grab the rev2 of that part, when I say open, it just opens it and it's going to update my cache now to have that new revision of the part. So I can see that I have that revision 2 of the part in my session. So if I'm just updating the work folder, it will overwrite. If I'm updating something that I have open in session, it's not going to overwrite it. All right, let's take a look now. Go back to our assembly model. And when I open this in session, I can see obviously I have a lot of things out of date here. Since I just opened up that part, that's showing me the latest and greatest part that happens to be something checked out and I'm working on. So what I might want to do here is I've opened up to see maybe this is what it looked like when I went on vacation or I took off for the weekend. People have made some changes and stuff to this. And maybe now what I want to do is I want to look at some different revisions of this assembly. So what I can do is I can right click on the assembly, hit update model, and now it's going to tell me for this revision rule all the things that will be updated. So I can select these individual lines, see the updated geometry associated with them. Now what I could also do is for that assembly, I could say set it back to precise, and it'll reset all the parts back to Rev 1. I can then say, oh, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to update this to latest by date. And then maybe that would go ahead and show me all of these components would get updated. Or I could switch, let's see, a later revision of the whole assembly. Maybe I want to have that assembly go to the latest precise. So I can see here that most everything then gets updated pretty well, but there's still a few things out of date. All these different options allow you to configure what revisions are displayed. So let's go ahead and update to revision 3 of the assembly, precise only, and see what happens. Okay, so now it has updated this to Rev 3. You can see some geometry changes here. Now maybe I want to go and say, well, this assembly has been updated. Let's update that subassembly to be the latest and greatest. So I can apply that. And you can see now it updated that assembly, so nothing there is out of date. And the only thing left out of date is my part 1. And I can check that and say update model. And that'll tell me that it's going to go to 2, which is going to be something that's checked out, which is fine. So I'll go ahead and update that. Now I can see this update for this model. So now I've gone and moved forward, if you will, in the design. I can see that some of these parts have changed since I last saved the assembly, so I might want to save a new revision of the assembly to capture it in this state. But the other thing I can do is I can pick an assembly and I can go backwards. So I can update the model to an older revision. So in this case, I'm going to say that I want to go take Rev A all the way back to 1, precise only. So now everything goes back to Rev 1. I hit update and it goes back to the original design. So you can go forwards, backwards, you can use revision rules, you can use individual selection. You have a lot of control here over exactly what you want to update and what revision it should go to all through your assembly. This is a very powerful technique and makes it real easy to make some updates. Now if I went and retrieved, say, another assembly, in this case I'm going to grab A3. A3 might have some overlapping parts. So it says, hey, these parts already exist, so we're not going to fetch them because they would conflict with what you've already got in session, in this case P4. So the revision, whatever I was trying to retrieve from that assembly, is not in sync with what I have in session for P4. So these kinds of things help you to kind of look at the design and figure out what combination of revisions you want. Of course, it's easiest just to, most of the time you're going to retrieve, just give me all the latest and greatest, and then you'll sort it out when you get ready to release the product. That's the most common scenario. But it can be very useful to use these tools to go back and forth and control your revisions. Hope this provides some good guidance for you. Thanks.